Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I do 3D art sunflower pieces. So I'm taking a small bead of my brown acrylic to start off with and removing any of the excess liquid. Whenever you're working with 3D artwork, you want to make sure that your beads are really small first of all, and they are not too wet nor too dry. You want them more on the drier side, but not dry enough to where you can't move them after a while. You just want them at a good consistency where you can mold the bead. So you can see here that I let it sit for a little bit, and then I'm going in with the belly of my brush just to flatten out the acrylic in order to get like a nice oval circle shape, if that makes sense. And this is just the center of the sunflower. You can do this with other things. I have done sunflowers with Swarovski centers and it looks so cute, but I decided to do it with a bead, a brown acrylic bead instead of Swarovski, just because I know not a lot of people have a brown Swarovski or a brown crystal in general laying around. So I felt like it was an easier route and just a better demonstration with acrylic. So that is why I did acrylic, but those stippling motions that you saw me do was just to give it texture to kind of resemble the center of the sunflower. And then here I'm taking my my yellow acrylic, small bead as well, same consistency, go towards more of the drier side rather than a wetter bead. And then we're just going to place it down, let it sit for a little bit, and then you can see here that I'm taking kind of like the tip of my brush sideways and stippling in the center to elongate that bead. So this is just the start of the shape that we're going to get. We are going to perfect it, but this is just to get that general shape going in order to make it easier. You can clean it up a little bit if you feel like it's running too much. But after that, I do go ahead and do the same motion just to kind of balloon out thing. And then you can see here that I'm taking the very point of my brush, keeping it at the center of the petal, and then going at different angles in order to balloon it out. It's the same process kind of doing like those 5 petal flowers that I showed in my previous video. The only difference is that you are elongating it at the very beginning. This is so easy once you get the hang of it. I promise y'all, it is a little tricky when you're first starting, of course. Even for me, it was tricky. The more you play with it, the more you're going to get better at it. But you're just going to continue doing the same steps throughout the whole process. And whenever I am creating pieces off to the side, you can see that I like to start off at the center with my first petal in order to get a nice symmetrical look. And then I go ahead and do the one right above it. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the one right below it. This is just so that I ensure that the flower looks pretty symmetrical. And if I was to start with like a top petal rather than the center one, I feel like I run out of space sometimes and my petals don't come out like the same size, if that makes sense. So I just feel like starting at the center is a really nice and neat trick that makes your flowers just look more nice and more symmetrical. So I would recommend you to do that, but it's the same process, guys. We're just going ahead, stippling at the center to elongate the shape, and then keeping the brush right, like the point of the brush right at the center, and going at different angles to balloon it out. And then if you want to go in and clean up the sides of the shape, as you can see in this petal I did, you can. You're just going to keep continuing this until you fill up the whole beads. I also wanted to tell you all the brush that I'm using. It's a size 5 brush. Whenever I bought it at my local nail supply store, it did not have a brand to it, unless I just missed it and it was on the packaging and I didn't see it. But the brush itself does not have a brand. It just has a size 5 on it. But I did find the brush online. I've been doing a lot of actual research to try to see if I can find a brush really similar to it. With the size and everything, and I found it. So it's gonna be under my FAQs on my highlights on my page if y'all want to go check it out and see the exact brush that I have. So you're just gonna continue doing this until you filled up the whole petals, making it look nice and cute, making sure you always pick up the similar kind of same amount of bead of acrylic just to get an even look within all the petals. It is kind of tricky. If you do not pick up the same size bead, do not worry. Just wipe that bead on your on your towel, and then pick up the bead again. So you can see here that on the sides, I am going in with smaller beads just because since it is kind of cut off and I don't want to leave it empty, I'm doing smaller portions of the bead in order to just give me a part of the petal, if that makes sense. I did this just because I was running out of space and I did not have space enough to do like a whole petal, but I still wanted to fill up the space and not leave it empty because I felt like it would have looked weird. So if your petals aren't big enough, this is like a little trick you can do. But other than that, you're just gonna do this until you're done. And after this, I do go ahead and add smaller petals just along, like in between those bigger petals. I just feel like it makes the nail look cuter. You can leave it how it looks right now, just with those initial petals. But I feel like adding those smaller beads and making smaller petals out of them gives the flower more of a voluminous look and kind of just makes it look cuter. So I just go ahead and do it. But it's the same process, guys. I promise y'all. You're just picking up smaller beads and working in a smaller quantity. But it's the same exact process. I know it was in and out of focus and I'm so sorry. I didn't notice this when I was filming it, but I didn't want to like discard this and I still wanted to keep it in the video. So I'm sorry that it's in and out of focus, but it's the same process, I promise y'all. You can kind of see it's just really blurry, but I do hope that it is at least a little bit helpful. That's why I wanted to keep it in. I didn't want y'all to like clock me and be like, where did those petals come from? So that's why I kept it in the video, but you're just doing the same process until you're done. And once you're done with all those petals that you want, you can add how many petals you want, of course. We're just gonna go in and add those like green leaves just to give it more of a dimension to the flower. You don't have to add these, but I just feel like it looks a lot cuter when adding these, and it really makes it look like a sunflower instead of just like a regular yellow flower. So I'm just adding these green leaves, doing the same process. The only difference here now is that on the sides, I do go ahead and stipple like individual little lines on the side of the petal just to give me more of that leaf effect. If you do look at leaves, or if you've ever looked at a leaf, I don't know if you have, but if you've ever looked at a leaf, you can see that it kind of has like individual lines within the actual like sides of it. So that's just kind of what I'm doing here. But it's the same process, guys. I promise y'all, when creating the initial like leaf, you don't have to do those like side little lines. I just feel like it gives it more of a dimension and it looks cuter, so I do it. But if you don't want to do them, it's the same process. You just stipple out the center in order to elongate the bead, and then just kind of feather out those sides. I just do that little stippling thing, as you can see here. I feel like it looks cuter. And then after you're done with all of that, you can just add your top coat. I usually like to go in with like a little detail brush and add my top coat carefully around the sunflower. But I didn't do it in this video just because I felt like it was already long. But you can add your top coat afterwards. Some people like to add it beforehand. I just feel like it's better afterwards. But do not put it on the flower because it will ruin like the depth and the details of it. So just carefully go around and add your top coat around like the whole 3D artwork. But that's basically it. I do hope y'all enjoyed this video. And if you do have any questions or recommendations for future videos, feel free to DM me or even leave them down in the comments. But I do hope y'all have a good day and stay safe.